Hi, guys. Good evening. Good evening. Good evening. I didn't even put on my timer. So sorry. Every time I do this live, it's something new. But thank you guys for joining me this evening. This is our third live, I believe it is. I'm doing lives every month, once a month. So every Saturday at 6:30, I'll be doing a live about a topic that is hopefully interesting to you guys. So thank you for joining. If you are here already, please let me know where you're watching from, and also if you code as a medical biller. Also, let me know if you can hear me well, because I have a new mic and I'm trying to check it out, make sure that it works and that you hear me well and it doesn't sound muffled. So if you can't hear me, please let me know. I'd like this to be an interactive live where you communicate back and forth with me, ask questions, because we all have different experiences. And this is my experience with medical coding, or the things that I know about medical coding as a medical biller. But of course, if you have been a biller before, or you're a biller now, and your workflow and your duties and stuff are different, then it will be different. So please make sure you comment in the comments so that we can talk back and forth. So I see that we already have some people in here, and let's see who is here. Okay, so we have Lady Jem. Hi, Lady Jem. North Carolina in medical coding, and yes, I can hear you. Great. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And okay, I can hear you too from India. Okay, yes. So North Carolina and India in the house, United States, India in the house, and I am from the U.S. Virgin Islands. If you guys don't know already, I'm from, well, let me reverse that back. I live in the U.S. Virgin Islands. I am originally from New York City, Brooklyn, New York to be exact, but I have grown up in the U.S. Virgin Islands and I've been here most of my life. So, I'm kind of like dually residing in the Virgin Islands, but I was born in Brooklyn. So anyway, we're going to jump in and get started. I don't want this to be too long because you guys know I can chat. So we're going to jump right in. So let me share my presentation. I got to have a presentation. So it's not going to be long, and I don't want it to be too teachy, but I want to stay on track because it's easy to get off of track and I don't want to go off track. So let's start off. We're going to be talking about medical coding as a medical biller. Now, I found this topic to be important because, for me at least, many people get coding mixed up with billing, and even people that you think should know about it already, whether that's providers, people who are actually in the billing world, like, people get mixed up all of the time. So I just found this to be very fitting, and I hope that it is, interesting for you guys and that you learn something from it, or you can share with us something that you know about it. So who am I? I always start off with who am I, because I don't know who's watching and I don't know if you've been here before, but I'm a certified professional biller. I am a certified professional practice manager, and I am a medical billing business owner. I have been in different specialties, ophthalmology, OBGYN, pediatric behavioral health, general surgery. Like, I've been in different specialties, but my love is OBGYN, and then my second would be ophthalmology. And I always shared a little something about myself because, yes, my channel is about medical billing, and that's mainly what it's going to be about. But I'm a human too. So I am not all about medical billing. And I want to share that with you guys because you guys might have interests that I have, and we can just talk and share with each other. So I drive a Jeep, which is my favorite car that I've had in the whole wide world. I've had a Neon, I've had an Esteem, but the Jeep is my jam, and I don't see me going back to anything else. I'm a fur mom of a beautiful Yorkie. His name is Cody, and I love food. I have to throw that in there because if you know me, you know that I love food and I love all types of food. I'll try things, you know, I'll try any not and I don't want to say anything, but I'll try most things and then I'll see if I like it or not. So that's a little bit about myself. And we're gonna talk a little bit about the one-on-ones that I have. Just letting you know that I have one-on-ones. You can schedule a remote one-on-one. They are $55 for a half an hour. We usually go a little bit over, like maybe 45 minutes or so. And, we talk about whatever you want to talk about, whether that is a career in medical billing, any courses or something like that you want to take. If you want to know the difference between medical billing code, like whatever it is, we talk about that there. So you can see the link there and you can actually, sign up and we can do a consultation. I'm going to get to the comments because I'm also talking and trying to view the comments. So we're going to get to the comments. So don't think that I skipped you. I'm going to get to the comments. But let me just get through this. Then I wanted to also talk about the merchandise. I've talked about this before, and I have them here. We have spiral notebooks. They are 118 pages. They have pockets in them. Hope you can see that. So they have pockets on both sides. And it's small and it's spiral bound. Now I am selling these because I love notebooks, journals, anything that you can write in. I am a person who likes to write things down, but it needs to be small. It needs to be portable, and I need to be able to take it around with me. It also needs to be have stuff where I can store stuff, like sticky notes, because I am a sticky note girl, and any papers, anything like that that I need, and then I can store it in my purse or wherever I want to take it and stuff like that. So I have those, and those are on sale for $12.82. And then I have this mug, and I have this mug that I love so much too. I use it to drink all types of things. Every morning I either have some tea or some mushroom coffee, and I use that mug to drink it in. Right now I have a little bit of water in here because I know that my throat is going to get dry talking all of this time. So if you're interested, the link is going to be in the description box. It's on the screen. So, and I'm working on some designs for some t-shirts. I love t-shirts, polos, stuff like that. So I'm going to be working on some designs for that. So let's jump into my latest story time. I want to know if you guys saw it. If you saw my latest story time, let me know. Again, I every now and then share a little bit about myself. I don't want it to be so formal all of the time. I am a human being. And in this story time, though, we do get into a little bit about medical billing because why not? and I'm going to stick medical billing in anything that I can stick into it. So if you have not watched my latest story time, it is on my YouTube channel. So check that out and comment below. I know a lot of us females go through this particular condition, I guess, and some of us have had surgery. So let me know your experience. I'll love to hear it. And let me see some of these comments. So Megalina says, I'm not in coding yet, but would like to get more information. Oh, okay, sure. Then this is the live for you. I am, just so that you know, I don't know if maybe you are a part of my channel or not. I am a medical biller. I do all things medical billing, but coding has to slip in there somewhere. So I hope today I can clear it up for you. What's the difference? And maybe you might actually like medical billing. And Megalina also says that I also would like to know what's a good online program and if you should look for medical billing and coding programs or just concentrate on coding? That is a good question. And at the end, we are going to be answering that question for sure. And Sandeep says, hey, I work as account receivable here in the company, and I want to work in the USA. I know about the RCM denials, but I don't know how can I apply work from here. I would love to work there. Okay, as far as that question is concerned, I'm not in India, so I'm not sure exactly how that goes. I do have a few videos on my channel where you can look. I think I have it in a playlist as well, so you can just look at those if you want to, that I can give you some tips as far as what I think you can do, but I can't tell you for sure because I never had to do that. So I can't necessarily tell you for sure. I would think it is similar to get a job than like if you were in any other place, if you were in another state in, the US, or how I'm in a territory and I'm trying to get a job in the US. I would think things could be similar, but there probably are differences, and I'm not necessarily the one to answer that because I really don't know. But you can watch those videos and see if they help. I hope that they do. But I thank you for joining, and maybe you can get something for tonight from tonight's live. Maybe somebody else can answer that. If anybody else has any information about that, please put that in the comments as well. Okay? So let's jump into this live. So what's up with this coding thing? And I put that because I asked myself that, especially when I was first starting out. Okay. So I just didn't understand, like, okay, I was hired as a medical biller. That was my title. My position, my title was a medical biller. But I was doing things that I wasn't sure about, and I wasn't sure if it was billing, if it was coding, like what was it? So we're going to be talking about today what's up with this coding thing when it pertains to medical billing. Now, what's the difference between medical billing and coding? And I think this might answer some of what Megalina asked, is that, well, she wants to know which one to concentrate on, if you just concentrate on coding or billing. But we need to first start off with what it is. What is billing? What is coding? What is the difference between the two? Because they are not the same. And I want to stress that because I don't care how many times you may tell someone that I'm a biller or I'm a coder. They still kind of get it confused, and even providers tend to get it confused. So medical billing is the process of submitting and following up on claims with health insurance companies and third-party payers in order to receive payment for services rendered by a healthcare provider. So in layman's terms, let me get my claim form. In layman's terms, we, as a medical biller, I submit claims. I submit claims to third-party payers, to insurance companies, to the federal government, and I follow up on them to make sure that they are being paid, that the provider is paid for the services that are rendered. This is where my job starts, submitting claims, okay? As a medical coder or medical coding is the transformation or the transformation of healthcare diagnosis, procedures, medical services, and equipment into universal alphanumeric codes. So as a medical coder, you would be responsible, or you should be responsible for taking these books. Okay, this is the ICD-10. They have the ICD-10 PCS. This is the ICD-10 CM. They have the CPT code. Okay, these books are hefty. And they have the HCPCS level 2 codes. Okay, so as a medical coder, you are responsible for reading the notes of the provider and translating them into these codes, these alphanumeric codes. That is what you're responsible for. So this is two different processes. Not that one person can't do these two things, but if one person is doing it, then they're a medical biller and a medical coder. It's not the same thing. So to answer your question, Megalina, I would say it's up to you. You don't have to do both, or you can do both. And it just depends on what you find that you like or that you're passionate about. So I'll give you my story. Like I said, I started off as a medical biller. And for the longest, I just didn't understand what was the difference. Like sometimes I would be choosing codes, sometimes I wouldn't. Sometimes the provider would give me information, sometimes he wouldn't. I know I would be doing claim forms and calling insurance companies and following up on claims. So I was like, okay, so is this just one thing? Like, is it medical billing and coding, like all together? And as I got into it and got further into it, started to research, do more learning, all of those things, I realized that these are two different jobs. And I had to start educating people on the difference between the two jobs. They are not the same. And if I keep repetitively saying that, it's because no matter how much I say that, people still tend to say, I would say, okay, so I'm a medical biller. I could be talking to a provider who wants me to do their billing. Because like I said, I have a billing company. And we'll go through the whole spiel and I'll tell them, well, yeah, I'm a medical biller. I send out the claims. I'll do this, do that. And then they'll say, so you code, right? So, you don't have to, you'll pick the codes for me and choose. And I'll say, no, I'm a medical biller and I do such and such and whatever. Now, mind you, when it comes to medical billing companies, they can decide to do whatever they want. But I think we need to make it clear that these are two different professions. So especially when you're going for a job or you're looking for a job, you're looking through Indeed, through ZipRecruiter, do all of those things. And even if you're getting a job locally in your area, make sure that you check to see what the duties are. Now, the title that you see may say medical billing specialist. And then you go down to what they want you to do, and it says code claims and do coding, know the ICD-10 and CPT books. And like it would say that in your description. Whether or not the title says that you're a coder, sometimes you will be responsible for coding. And it's up to you to say, well, no, I'm not a coder, or yes, I'm a coder, or I don't mind doing it. For the most part, though, if a person really knows, or if an employer really knows the difference between the two, if they want you to be coding, they would also ask you to maybe be certified as a coder. Being a coder, for the most part, you will probably want to be certified. As a biller, I would still recommend being certified, but you don't have to, because a lot of employers don't ask for that. So you don't have to be certified. So that is the main difference between the two of them. And I hope I explained it well. Hope I didn't go off on my soapbox. But those are the main differences between a medical biller and a medical coder. Okay. Now, where do they fall in the revenue cycle? So let's even just say what the revenue cycle is, because again, when I first started out, it was like, I knew that things had to happen. So I knew that the front desk put in, registered people, put in their insurance information, all of those things. But I didn't know what the revenue cycle is. And the revenue cycle is the complete cycle of a patient's visit. So from the beginning, which in my demonstration is pre-registration, to the end, which is collections and refunds, that is a complete revenue cycle. So when you start off with the patient until it's a zero balance, that is a complete revenue cycle. And if you are a patient and you've gone to a doctor 10 times, then you have had 10 revenue cycles. Okay, it's in a circle. Now, if you Google revenue cycle online, you will see different forms or different types of diagrams. They all basically are the same, but some of them are broken up differently. This is how I break up my revenue cycle. So in my revenue cycle, medical coding would fall under charge capture, and medical billing would fall under claim submission. Now, not just that, let me say that. So for charge capture, that is when you would be coding, or if the provider is coding, or if there actually is a medical coder. And then claim submission starts the medical billing process. Okay. So from claim submission all the way to, it could stop at AR follow-up, or it could go further to collections and refunds. It just depends on what your responsibilities are as a biller. But this is where they fall. So in order for us as medical billers to bill, someone has to code first. Okay. So you can't bill before you code. Coding always falls before billing in any, and it should fall before billing in anybody's revenue cycle diagram. Okay. Coding, you have to be able to code first. That's like even saying that let's say you sent out a bill and didn't see a patient. That's impossible to happen, because in order for you to bill out something for the patient, you have to have a patient. So the patient has to have a visit or a procedure, or, lab, or, radiology, something, in order for you to bill it out. And in order for you to bill it out, you have to code it first. Okay. So I hope that's clear. Now, ways that coding can play a factor in billing. So again, two different jobs, okay? But they're like go hand in hand. Like, not that you necessarily have to know both of them really well, and that just depends on your position or stuff, but you should know them because they go hand in hand. They work together. If a coder does a job, let's say we have two people. One's just a coder, one's just a biller. If the coder doesn't do their part, then the biller can't do their part. And if the coder does their part, but the biller doesn't do their part, then neither way the provider is going to get paid. So you can code all you want and code well and do everything. If the biller never bills it out, then you're still not going to get the money. And you can be the best biller and send out your claims on time and do all of that. But if the coder doesn't code, then you can't send out the bill. So they both work hand in hand. So the ways that coding can be in billing is, the first way is none. Okay. You don't do any coding whatsoever. So a lot of times you'll see somebody who maybe works in a hospital, in a big hospital, and they do payment posting, or they do accounts receivable, or something like that falls into the medical billing realm, and they do no coding whatsoever. So let's say they work denials, and it comes back where a claim was denied, and it was denied for a certain reason. In a lot of hospitals, they don't allow you to do any coding, any changing, any fixing. You have to send that back to the coder or the coding department, and they need to fix it, and then you can resend it out. So you, as a medical biller, if you maybe work in a hospital, you might not have any need for coding. You might not even need to know what the books look like, how to use them, any of those things. Okay. So that's the first one. If anybody here is, like I said, working in billing, and maybe they work in the hospital or wherever they work, let me know your interaction with coding and which one of these you are. So the second one is, you're somewhat coding, just like a little bit, and not even really coding, but you're required to scrub claims before they are submitted. So a lot of the systems have a scrubbing or a scrubber within the system. For me, and where I've worked for, I was a scrubber. So I had to, any claims that I got in, I needed to just go through them, skim them, make sure that things are correct on the claim form and that the codes, the numbers that's put there, they're correct. And in order for me to know that, I have to know how to look up codes in my book, know what the codes are. I had to use my CPT book. I had to use my ICD-10 book, because in order for me to know and scrub and see if it's right, I had to do that. Now, I wasn't coding anything from, let's say, the medical records, but I had to look in the book. So if a provider gave me a code, a CPT code, and it was 4 digits, 4259, and you're like, oh, let me give a real one. Let's say it was 5815. I should know, if I'm the scrubber, that you're missing a digit. And what are you trying to say that you did? So 5815, it might need to have a 0 behind of it. And I need to be able to look that up in the book to say, well, is that what was done? Now, depending on what's the policies and the rules in the workplace, they might allow me to add that code without talking to the provider, or me as the biller may go to the provider and say, well, you're missing a digit. Were you trying to say this was a hysterectomy or whatever it was? And then they'll say yes or no, and then I'll add it. Okay, so I'm just scrubbing. And as a scrubber, you're just making sure that things are correct as best as you can, so that you can have clean claims go out, so that you don't have claims with errors. Okay, so clean claims are claims that go out and are not like rejected or sent back, and they're clean enough for the insurance to process. Then we have partially. So if you're partially billing, you will choose the CPT codes and the ICD-10 codes based off of the provider's super bill. Now, as far as the super bill is concerned, I know people have different names for it. I know it as a super bill. I've heard of it as an encounter form and as like different names, like different places name them different, but I know it as a super bill. So you might have a provider who marks off, let's say the super bill had on something and the code, he marks off the code, and then he puts, or she puts, I'm always saying he because I work for he, but he or she puts fibroids. So they don't actually put the diagnosis code, they write out the diagnosis, like fibroids, or they write out a total abdominal hysterectomy. So they write that out instead of giving you the code. So you might have to then say, go into your book, find out fibroids, the code for fibroids, and then put it in. That might be your responsibility. So if that's your responsibility, then you have to know how to use the books. And then you also have to know, so let's just say a little example. I'm saying fibroids. So when I get into my book and I see fibroids, which is D25.9, I know that most codes you want to be as specific as possible. So I would go back to the provider and say, well, what kind of fibroid? So he or she would need to put intramural, submucous, submural fibroids. Like they need to have that there. And me doing this, I have to know how to use my book in order to do that. So I give them options. So which one is it? But all of this time, all 3 that we just spoke about, you have not looked into the medical record. You're just working off of what the provider told you to do, or what your office is telling you to do, but you're not looking in the medical records. Now, fully is the last one, and that's when you are the one choosing the codes, or maybe even the provider might help you out and choose the codes, but you are reviewing them. You're looking in the records. You're making sure what the provider said the code is what they have, and you're actually coding. So you're looking through the medical records, reading that, this patient had a hysterectomy and, they gave them anesthesia, they did this, they did that. You're reading the op notes. So there can be different ways where coding can get mixed up in medical billing. And sometimes if you have been doing this so long, or if you don't know the difference, you just think that's a part of the job. So I may have came from a job in the hospital where I had to know no coding because I was doing payment posting. And then I went to a doctor's office, a small doctor's office, and then the provider expects me to partially code. They expect me to be able to find ICD-10 codes and CPT codes and partially code from what they write down. So you need to know basically what your responsibilities is going to be, what your duties is going to be. So I hope that was clear. Again, if you're doing anything different, or if you know any more, or if you're required to do anything else, please comment and let me know if you do anything more. That's the ways that I know it to be. So we're going to talk about some helpful tips, because I just like to give you guys what has helped me. It took me a while to get to where I am. I've been in billing for 17 years. And of course, to the beginning, it was kind of like just me doing what I was told to do. And as I started to learn it and really enjoy it, I started to branch out and just learn more about it. So I just like to teach others about it as well. So here are some helpful tips to just at least familiarize yourself with coding, even if you don't want to be a medical coder. That's the other thing I wanted to say. Now, for a long time, I was like, I don't want to be a coder. Like, I don't like coding. And I felt like, okay, well, if I'm doing this billing thing, I'm going to have to code. So I took a medical coding class. I passed, I got certified, and I am also a medical coder. But that's not my position. That is not my ministry. I do not want to be a coder. I did it way back then because I felt like it was together. Like, I needed to know this, but you don't need to know it. It just depends on what position you're in, what is required of you, and what you want to take on. So the first tip is to please don't rely only on Google. Learn how to use your codes books. It really annoys me. Maybe I can put that word. It annoys me when people say, coding is just, all I gotta do is Google it and I can find the code. Or, all I could, it's not a big deal. That is not coding. Like, if that was coding, we wouldn't need coding courses. We don't need any of that. You need to know how to properly code. Anybody can Google a code. Anybody could type in total abdominal hysterectomy, and you may or may not get the right code, but you need to know. If you're going to Google, just let that be a way to start you out. Maybe you're in a rush or something and you're just trying to figure out, so you might Google total abdominal hysterectomy. It sends you to a code, and then you make sure you look at it, read it, make sure it is what it's supposed to be. Don't just take what Google says. I think by now we should already know that, but if you didn't already know that, please know that, okay? Also, you have to read the guidelines. So the guidelines are at the beginning of these code books. So for the ICD-10, the guidelines are at the beginning. This book is so heavy, it's like a baby. So you read the guidelines. Now, I would recommend, especially if you're new to coding and even billing, I would just recommend reading the guidelines for yourself. You're not going to memorize them. It's a lot of information, but you get yourself familiar with it, and you can make it a habit. You can read them every year, maybe twice a year, just to kind of get yourself familiarized with it. And if you're in a specific specialty, that area you might read even more, because now you want to make sure what you're billing out is correct. Okay, so read your guidelines. Even if you don't have to code, reading your guidelines won't hurt. The more you know, the more it will help you. And if you decide to branch out, maybe into coding, you would already know how to use it. Also, research terms and definitions you're unfamiliar with. Anytime there's a word that I don't know, if there's a term or something that, let's say the provider did a procedure and I'm like, what did he do? What did she do? I research it. That's where you get to learn and be better and be able to have more opportunities. You don't have to be stuck in one thing or have people tell you what to do or keep you stuck in a one level, unless if that's what you want to be. If you just want to be this one thing, then fine. Don't continue to learn, don't continue to grow. But I don't think it would ever hurt. So just research anything that you don't know, research it. And don't be ashamed that you don't know it. You don't know what you don't know. So the only way for you to know it is to research it. Read, learn, just try to get yourself out there. So those are the tips that I have for you when it comes to familiarizing yourself with coding. So here we're going to have some frequently asked questions. Remember, if you have your own questions, please leave them in the comments. But I have about 6 questions that I tend to get often. Again, I do remote one-on-ones. I talk to people in general. I just came from a networking event that was on Thursday. I was speaking to people about medical billing, and they asked certain questions. So here are some questions that I tend to get often. And the first one is, do I have to know coding to be a medical biller? That's one of the first questions. And the answer to that is the straight answer, or the short answer to that is no. But the longer answer to that is you just might, depending on where you decide to work. Again, if you come into a doctor's office, a small doctor's office, let's say it's just you and the provider, or somebody at the front desk, you and the provider. The provider may want you to know how to code. They may expect you to know how to code. But in general, you do not have to know coding to be a medical biller. I do think it's a good idea. This is my opinion. I do think it's a good idea for you to learn it, even if you're not necessarily using it, but just kind of like get some books. Now, the books are not cheap. Let me put that out there. But I think that you can get them in the library, if I'm not mistaken, like some old past editions. And if anybody is a coder, you might could get their old books. But just to review and look over. So to answer the question, do I have to know coding to be a medical biller? No, you don't. Number 2, what coding should I know even if my job title is a medical biller? So that's kind of like a similar question, but I have had people who are billers, they're already in. Like the first question was more for people who are new. They're thinking about which one to do, just like Megalina was saying, which one to do, and they trying to find out the difference and what they should do. The second question is more for somebody who's actually in the billing world, and they're like, should I even be knowing coding? Because like my provider be asking me to do this and to do that, and I'll be like, I don't know what you're talking about. Again, it depends on what your duties are, and you really need to find out what your duties are. I know sometimes you get really excited that you finally got a job, or you're in the field that you want to be in, and you don't really ask questions about what's going to be required of you, but you should ask questions. Like that is so important, because then you know what they need you to do, and if you're capable of doing that. Even if you're not capable of doing, even if you don't know anything about coding, but you feel confident that you can do it and learn it, and you will put, the work into learning it, then you can let the provider know that. Don't ever try to make it seem like you know more than what you do, because it can hurt both of you. It can hurt the provider and it can hurt you, and you don't want to do that. 3 is, does knowing coding make me a better medical biller? And if I honestly had to answer that answer would be, I guess it would make you a better medical biller only because you know more. If I'm saying it right. Not that, because again, medical billing and medical coding is 2 different things. So because I know how to find codes in the CPT book, and or I know how to read the medical records and find codes in the CPT book, that doesn't mean that I know how to get a claim paid that was denied. So those are like two different things. You know, I don't know if I'm saying it right, but it's two different things. So I don't know if it makes you a better biller, but I think it expands your knowledge, helps you to grow. Like you might know, now that I know a little bit of coding, when I'm sending out a bill and I look at a code, I know what that code means. So that in itself will make you better. But to say it'll make you better as a coder, I mean, as a biller, I don't know. I don't think it necessarily will. Um, if you can't get your purpose as a biller is to get your provider paid. And if you can't do that, even though you know how to code, then does that really make you a better medical biller? It doesn't. Okay. But again, learning more can never hurt. Even if you don't use it, which I think you should, but even if you don't use it, learning, you just learn and grow and expand. So I don't think that's ever harmful. Number 4 is, which one should I learn first? And I think that was the question that Megalina asked. Let me make sure that that was the question. So yes, she said, I don't know how can, no, sorry, wrong question. Wrong question. Okay, so medical billing and coding programs, or just concentrate on coding. So that kind of falls in the line of that. So which one should I learn first? Now, that's up to you, you know. Depending on what I said, Megalina, let's ask you, do you feel like you would be more inclined, or more, you would learn more or like more one or the other? Because again, one is looking through the medical records, going through them, choosing the codes, and the other one is sending out claims, following up on claims, dealing with insurance companies and denials and appeals and all those things. So those are two different things. Your second part is, should you concentrate on coding? And that just depends on who you ask. Because if it was me, I'm a biller, I would say do billing. If you speak to a coder, they probably said do coding. So it's kind of like basically what you feel, what you want to do, and how you think it will help you, and if you would like it or not. I have a video on my channel. It's kind of old, but it talks about like character. It talks about medical billing versus medical coding, and it tells you like characteristics, salary. All of those things may play a factor in your decision, in what you want to learn first and what you don't want to learn. So I would recommend that you watch that video, and I'll probably try and link it when we get off here, link it above so that you can click on that. But there's a lot of different factors when it comes to which one you want to do. Again, even with something like salary, it's just, that's just something that's like an average, or something when people come up with, oh well, coders get paid more than billers. That's the average, but that doesn't mean that's always the case. So also, don't let how much you make kind of determine what you want to do. And maybe I shouldn't say don't do that, because when you need money, you need money. And that's just, what it is. But I don't think it would be beneficial for you, because after a while, you probably might hate what you're doing. And for a little bit more money, is it worth it? Is my question. That's why I always tell people, is that worth it? Is that worth your sanity? Is that worth all of that? So let me read some of these comments. So Brandy says, you're right, it doesn't really help. I don't know what I was talking about. I was talking too much. Coder pays more, if that helps. Yeah, coder, yes. Coder pay coders, and again, for the most part, coders get paid more. It's not always the case, though. Again, it depends on where you're working, what you're doing. And also a lot of times people have positions and they have like dual positions or positions that have added things extra things added on to them. So let's say you're like a coder, but you know your job also have you doing a little bit of auditing. Like you might get a little bit of, you'll probably will get more money doing that than from somebody who's just doing coding. um as a biller, let's say a lot of billers will go into revenue cycle management or become a revenue cycle manager. And so that's now the whole complete thing. So they might get a little bit more. So they're just different ways. But like Brandy said, for the most part, coders do get paid more than billers. And again, like I said, if you watch my video, you'll notice for me, it's not that much for me to say I'm going to switch from billing to coding. It really isn't. So that's just my personal opinion. And 5 is medical billing or medical coding better to learn first? Again, comes to that. Either one you can learn first. Depends on yourself, what you want to do. Both of them, I think, will be helpful and beneficial to you. Just depending on where you want to go in your career, both of them will work. And which field should I get into? Which pays better? We went over that. A coder, for an average, pays better. I would not say that any field is better than the other. And you know, it really depends on what you want to do. From what I stated to you guys, which one do you find that you're more interested in? Is it medical billing or is it medical coding? Okay, let me read some more questions. So I really like your presentation and you were really helpful and you're doing a good job. Oh, thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I don't want to just be doing these lives for doing these lives' sake. I want to make sure that I'm helping you in some way. If y'all have any recommendations as far as what you want to see, put it in the comments, let me know so that, you know, I can be presenting to you information that can be beneficial to you and not just information that's not really helping you. So that is the end of the presentation. If you have any questions, I'm here to answer. I think I went through all the questions that were there. And as far as a program, I think that's what Megalina asked. Off the top of my head, I did my program for billing I did my program for medical billing through AAPC. I did my program for medical coding through CCO, which is Coding Certification org or something like that. So I did it's cco.us is the website. So I did my coding course through there. I did my billing course through AAPC, but I am certified for both through AAPC. As far as any other classes, in Lara University, she has a great billing class. And there are many, many medical billing and coding courses out there. So what I want you guys to also do, or what you can do that can be helpful, Megalina, is you could go on my page and there is a video that I have about how to choose a course. So it kind of gives you questions that you want to ask yourself about how you learn, you know, what are you looking for when you look for these courses. So check that video out. I'll try to link that one as well after we get off, but check it out on my YouTube page. But everybody learns differently. They have medical billing and coding courses online. They have them hybrid, meaning online and in person, and then they have them in person, depending on like where you live locally. So you can become certified. You can take a class any of those ways. But you have to know yourself. You have to know how you learn. I know this is a little bit off topic, but I know when I was doing my master's, I was doing it online, and I took about, I think I had like 10 or something like that classes to take, or 12. And I took about 4 classes, and it was all totally online. And I was like, this is not for me. Like, it was, I would have had to do it for 2 years. And I know myself, I need to be in a classroom. I need to be, and for that long period of time, I need to be in a classroom. Now, when I took my, when I got certified as a instructor, the billing, the coding course, my practice management course, all of those was online, but they were shorter. So I could do that. And I felt comfortable doing that. And like, I learned. You have to know yourself. You really, really do have to know yourself. Do not let people tell you which one is better for you. They can give you recommendations, how I'm giving you recommendations, but you, at the end of the day, it's your decision, because you know yourself and you know what will work better for you. Can you get some info? It will be helpful for me, like working from here to there. Again, I don't know anything about India, so that's really hard for me to get info. I would personally say you would try to get positions and jobs the same way we would here in the United States. There are a lot of, again, I have videos telling you different websites and different companies that need billers. And the only thing is, of course, you would have to let them know where you are, and they have to be open. If they're doing remote billing, or if they don't mind doing remote billing, you can remote bill from anywhere. It's just up to that provider to decide whether or not they want to keep it in the United States, or if they don't mind sending it, the billing off. So that is a personal choice for them. That's not anything that I would have to do it, and I really don't know how that works. And I'm also 23 and just completed my graduation. Congratulations. Congratulations. And keep going. I mean, I know that sometimes it can get like you just graduate, you want to jump right into working, and sometimes that happens and sometimes it don't. I would suggest, however, just number one, not giving up, continuing to look. There are a lot of different avenues, a lot of different ways to get into different things. So don't just try one way and expect that if that way doesn't work, then you don't do anything else. And number two, even when you're not working, keep your brain sharp. Make sure you continue to read books. And, if it's coding that you're doing, make sure that you continue to code and do examples, all of those things. Take practice exams, keep your skills up, because if you don't use them, you can lose them. And in this healthcare field, it changes so much. So even myself, who use them every day, I'm doing billing all the time. If I get stuck in doing things the way that I've always done them, and not learning anything new, not keeping up on the payer policies, not, learning about the new technologies and all of those things, I can fall behind. So I would just suggest, do not fall behind. Try not to just get stuck in, okay, I don't have a job, so I can't do anything, because you took the time out to take your course. You might have had to pay money and your time. I mean, even if you didn't have to pay money, you took time out to invest in yourself. So just don't lose that. Don't make it become lax, and then you don't do anything, and now you forgot it and you got to do it all over again. So you don't want to do that, because it's easy to it's easy to lose it. It's easy to forget things, to don't remember how to do this, to don't remember. Continue to use your skills, and eventually you'll be able to get a job where you want to, or start your own business, or whatever you feel like you need to do. So if you want to connect with me, I am on Facebook and I am on Instagram under It's All Medical Billing. I am on LinkedIn under Tamika Duncan. And I'm on Instagram. I wish they had Instagram to connect to this so that I could be streaming as well to Instagram, but hopefully they'll do that soon. But that's my only platforms because I'm a little old school and all these 20 million platforms are not for me. And of course I'm on YouTube because most of you guys probably catch me on YouTube under Medical Billing Maven. So if you have anything that you want for me to discuss further or talk about, just let me know. I think we're already on the hour mark. And if you guys don't have any more questions, also let me know if this timing is good. It's 6:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And I had asked, did a poll, and this was good for most people. So if it's still good, let me know, because remember, we'll be doing the lives every month. And if it's not good, then I could see if I can change it, just depending on my schedule and what others would like, because I want you guys to be able to be here. If you can't be here, then what's the point of doing the live, right? So I hope this was very enjoyable for you. Sorry. I hope it was enjoyable for you, and I hope you learned from it. And I will see you guys again, hopefully next week. And don't forget to check out my videos. I put out videos mostly every Saturday. So there's a ton of videos on my channel. If you want me to do any more, also let me know in the comments about those videos. And I will see y'all again in the next live. Yes, you think, oh, sorry. Think I come on, yeah, every month. I do do my lives every month. So if you want to be here, let me know. It's the 4th Saturday every month. So if you can schedule that out in your planners and stuff, plan that, because God willing, if nothing happens, I'll be here every month. And depending on how they go, I might even up the lives to be here more often. So let me stop rambling. I will see y'all again. Thank you for joining me. Any one of you who have joined later, you can watch the replay because it will be up immediately. So have a good evening.